Hey, Evan here with Inner Worlds Astrology, and today I'm going to talk about the Taurus Full Moon happening November 19th. Before I begin, if you'd like a birth chart reading, the link is in the description box. Also, please like this video and subscribe to my content so that you can get future videos. Now, let's dive right in. So, this full moon is very important because it's getting closer to America's Pluto return that's happening in February 2022. And this full moon is happening near the true node, which is currently in Gemini, but it will be at this exact same degree point or around this degree point in February when America has the Pluto return. So the true node is going to be around 26, 27 Taurus at that time. And what's very significant is the fixed star Algol is right there. Algol is associated with Medusa, with beheadings and things like that. And when we think about when countries go through Pluto returns, it's a transformation. It's sometimes a destruction. And so this full moon is going to give us some premonitions about the future. We might get some psychic insights, some downloads about what might occur at that time. And by the way, on February 16th of 2022, there's going to be a Leo full moon. Leo represents leadership, kings, queens, royalty. And this full moon is kind of a midpoint between that upcoming Leo new moon and the Leo new moon on the Lion's Gate of 8-8. February 16th is 2/8. 8 is the degree of Scorpio, and again, it's associated with Pluto, about destruction, change. So you're starting to see how this full moon is again, that midpoint, that connection between all these events, these gears that have started to spin. And because it's an eclipse, by the way, it's a lunar eclipse, pay attention to the later degrees of Taurus and Scorpio in your own birth chart. So if you have planets there, this eclipse is going to affect those planets and those energies. Now, eclipses can either mark a completion, a fulfillment, a closure of a karmic cycle. It can also mark a place of weakening or trouble. And you really have to just look into your own birth chart. So let's say you have Venus in later degree of Scorpio. This full moon could potentially mark a fulfillment of a career thing that you've been working on. It could also be the end of some type of relationship that you're able to let go of, because the full moons are, a culmination that we can then release. It's an energy that we can now release. So anytime those planets are activated right on a full moon, it really is that chance to kind of flush something out. So it's not necessarily only a bad thing, but just, again, pay attention to where it is in your chart. And if we think about the Taurus themes on this full moon, Taurus is associated with values, career, money, finance, currency, food, agriculture, even the throat in medical astrology. So these themes are going to play a big role as well. And Venus rules Taurus, so we need to pay attention to that. Now, Venus is in Capricorn right now, and it's going to spend a few months there through March, which is less common because it's happening because Venus is going to be retrograding. And so because of that, this full moon might call into question our concepts of money and value, which are very important, especially in the US, around the world as well. But the US Pluto return is going to be in the US's second house, which is the house of money. So how do we formally define success? That's a question on this full moon. Does the current money system capture our worth appropriately? So concepts like UBI, minimum wage, merits of the dollar versus crypto might come up. And also, how do we achieve well-being? That's going to be another question. And how do we achieve well-being if the supply chain breaks, for example? So Taurus, has the planet Uranus in that sign right now. Uranus is disruption, change, and Taurus is our material resources and our food supply. So the supply chain has been breaking down and eroding throughout the year, and that could come into focus on this full moon also. And so how do we get our food, and how do we think about the people we want to work with to make sure that we have a stable living, right? Because Taurus wants stability, and Uranus doesn't usually let that happen. So these are very unstable times that are going to be called out, and then we have a chance to kind of decide, all right, in this instability, how can we recalibrate our society and our systems so that there is more stability, so that we feel like people are watching out for each other. In terms of the elements on this full moon, it's mostly water and earth. It's not only that, but I would say we have a much more, feminine energy than we have had for the past few months. So earth and water are negative polarities. They're feminine energies. That's about receptivity and change, intuitiveness. So again, I see people getting psychic downloads at this time, premonitions. And, regardless of how you identify with those energies and if you consider yourself intuitive or not, this is a chance for you to raise your frequency and get into those spaces, to kind of see beyond the fourth dimension, beyond time, and actually, understand maybe what is going to happen in February. Because again, February 16th, 2022 is going to be a huge day on that Leo full moon in another fixed sign, by the way. So we got to think about how can we see around the corner at this time. And in terms of modalities, we're dealing with mostly fixed signs. We have a lot of Scorpio, we have a lot of Aquarius, and we have some Taurus. And Leo is kind of the missing link right here in the chart. But again, I see the Lion's Gate still like hanging over us a little bit, and the Leo full moon, again, playing a huge role eventually. Fixed signs are about stubbornness, obstinance. It's a kind of a crossroads, an impasse, because the fixed signs are very good at working with their energy, but they also don't want to move. It's like locked in place. So the chart on this full moon is, it's a little rigid, yeah. But we have Pluto in a nice trine to the moon and sextiling the sun. So Pluto, again, is coming into focus right now with not only Venus in Capricorn, but just the Pluto return. And it's going to be supporting transformation, both on a personal and collective level, also investigation. We have a Mars-Uranus opposition, and that can make us a little bit reckless. It can make us susceptible to sudden awakenings, though, at the same time. And these are changes to me that started around 11/11. So I really feel, at least on a personal level, this year that 11/11 kind of opened up a portal to our higher selves. And so I have, heard many people saying, I'm starting to get really strong feelings about the next few months. And so we're starting to raise our vibrations. And to an extent, the 11/11 date was a precursor to 2/22/2022. So when we have these master numbers and we have these repeated numbers, there's an alignment that's implied. And with February 22nd, 2022 coming up as the next sort of sequence of this, 2 implies a split. When we think about it, all the things America's going through, and the true node in Gemini right now, like in the Neptune opposition that's coming up, there could be a split in consciousness, a split in perspective, a split in direction. And so with the Mars-Uranus opposition right now, again, this is really just doubling down on these insights, these awakenings. And so we might have some people just coming online spiritually, but also some spiritual people saying, okay, this is where we're headed. And this is how to make sense of the instability. So again, I can't stress this enough. This is a wonderful time to activate the third eye energy, the higher chakras. It's a really great time to try to become clairvoyant. Now we also have Jupiter squaring Mercury, and that's pushing us for more knowledge. And this will support Jupiter in Pisces, which I think, again, might kick off the awakening. So Jupiter will be in Pisces starting around New Year's Eve of this year through mid-May of 2022. And, when it's squaring Mercury right now, even though it's in Aquarius, I see us picking up information online because Jupiter is in Aquarius, and that rules things like the internet. And with Mercury and Scorpio, it's very investigative and very piercing. It's like a drill. And so pay attention to these conversations that you're having online, to the things you're watching online. There's going to be people kind of doling out, useful information that we can synthesize to be relevant. And during this Jupiter in Pisces phase that we're leading up to, by the way, I kind of foresee this split in the country and maybe the world between deciding between a cheap and easy way to enlightenment and a harder, natural way. So if you think about like Facebook's metaverse and announcements like that, and the fear that most people have of like everyday reality now, even still, the fear of leaving their homes, the fear of breaking a rule or whatever, I do see this potential split in consciousness where people start to open up about, maybe I want a virtual reality, maybe I want to just like sit in this digital realm. But, even though we can use the internet to gain insights, like I said, with Jupiter and Aquarius right now, once Jupiter enters Pisces, you're going to have to make that decision. Do you want to tap into these higher states of bliss and euphoria using your own, mental abilities and frequencies, or do you want to accept the external technology that someone gives you? That could be a pretty dystopian time. And so, with with Venus ruling Taurus and being associated with value systems, this is a great time on the full moon to decide, what are my values? What system do I want to be a part of? What system do I want to plug in to? Because we live in this inverted reality. We're not even sure if the metaverse is real at some point, or 3D reality is real, right? I think we might head there. People might, be too lost in those types of metaverses, and it doesn't have to be Facebook's. It could be another companies, but with how much fear is in our society, which by the way is lower frequency energy, with how much fear is in this society, we have to be careful. We have to be really careful that we're not just signing up for the easy path to enlightenment. So a great time for, again, reflection. We also have a Neptune Mercury trine, and that's supporting spiritual wisdom and epiphanies. So we're dreaming of potentially a more inclusive society, or a more spiritual connection. We're moving outside of purely linear time. Again, something that really kicked off on 11/11. When I personally meditated, I definitely felt as if the fifth dimension was accessible to me, only briefly, but ever since then, I still have this overhang of feeling like I'm a little bit outside of time. Like I'm not really keeping track of time in a good way. And again, when we ascend past that fourth dimension, that's when we can get those downloads, because we're no longer concerned with what's going to happen. There's no anxiety. There's no depression about the past. We're purely in the moment. And then that's when we can tap into clairvoyance. Now, we also have a Mars-Saturn square. And this is about potentially hidden information coming to light because Mars is in Scorpio. But also activating Saturn a little bit ahead of that Saturn-Uranus square on Christmas Eve. And in a way, this is also challenging the structure that's in place with Saturn. Saturn is structures. It's challenging those structures by investigating them through both objective research and like journalism, but also through psychic insights. So we can see spiritual people, astrologers, tarot readers, like other, people, doing the psychic work. And then we can see journalists digging in to who are these powerful people? Why are they making these decisions? Why did they decide this? And so it's shining a light on how the powers take resources from us, potentially, because Scorpio is about shared resources. Debt could come under scrutiny because Scorpio rules that. Are people managing their debt properly, especially as inflation is taking off? Can we handle our debt burden as a country or individually, especially as we pass these new bills that just pump more money into the economy? So this full moon could be the first domino to fall that eventually leads to a bursting of a debt bubble of some kind. Mars in Scorpio also digs up what we've been hiding from each other and ourselves. We might have to face hidden things that we've been in denial about, whether that's personal, or it's a collective debt burden, or it's memories we've repressed, or things we've held off. And so I just want to close with that thought of why is the Scorpio energy important? Because the South Node is going to enter Scorpio in January. And when the South Node is in Scorpio, we're going to have to let go of certain financial things, debt. Scorpio can also deal with matters of fertility. Is that something that gets called into question? Is that something that becomes affected? And when we think about the nodal axis right now, we're almost out of this Gemini-Sag thing, which is about duplicity, also self-righteousness. It's highly confusing. We see one thing, say another. But as the true node enters Taurus and it hits Algol around the Pluto return again, that's going to put us in a vulnerable position. Because with Pluto and Capricorn also, it's about the destruction of institutions, but the biggest ones. And if you think about Medusa and Algol and the associations of that motif and that archetype, there's just a sense here that the destruction could be very fast. Because if it's kind of like it's kind of like in Star Wars, honestly, when they hit the Death Star at the right spot, right? And it's instantaneous. It's just a matter of getting there. I'm getting a similar vibe about our Pluto return, where it's like kind of this Jenga set, and it's just like the right piece just has to fall, and then the whole thing collapses right away. And so there is this full moon could kind of shine a light on part of that piece, right? It could show us a little bit of where is that issue? Where is that issue, and what's the thing we need to watch out for? What's kind of shaky? What's unstable, especially with Taurus and Uranus there, or with Uranus in Taurus? So I just see Algol like really being activated on this full moon. And so this full moon just being like a little bit ahead of its time, like a 3-month period of it's like a 90-day ahead of its time thing, where in like 3 months or so, we will have that true node where the moon is right now. And in the meantime, just use all this intuitive energy, use this earth and water to see what's really there. And again, I want you to write down this date, February 16th, 2022. It's going to be a really important date. It's the Leo full moon. I'm going to talk about it in a future video. But if you're an astute astrologer, I want you to really look at that date. I want you to really think also back to the Lion's Gate and the associations with 8-8 and the scorpionic degree that represents, and the destruction and the transformation associated with that number and with that sign. And then again, Pluto being the ruler of Scorpio. So try to blend these things together. Use your intuition. Go within, reflect, dig up that dirt. And then pay attention to the dirt that's dug up on the institutions themselves. And then see if you can find the dominoes, because they haven't all hit yet. We see like, some of them are kind of teetering a little bit, but it hasn't happened yet. But there is a path to the Pluto return, a sequence of events that I, myself, and other astrologers have been researching. So again, this full moon is that midpoint between the Lion's Gate and the Leo full moon. And so, this is our best chance to see into that future. So anyways, wanted to keep this more brief than usual, more succinct, and hopefully you got a lot of value out of this. I have a lot more to offer as well through my birth chart readings, through my transits and progressed readings, my synastry, and even through my TikTok videos where I, provide some education as well. Just keep following along and have a good evening, day, wherever you are.